Welcome to this week's UEN Capital Update video. I'm Margaret Buckton, your UEN Legislative Analyst. Our primary topics for this week, we'll talk about a tax bill that was approved in the Senate that eliminates tax cut triggers and the voter-approved public education and recreation levy. House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, one-time payment, now includes preschool. And House File 228, Diversity Plans, was amended in the Senate, sent back to the House. A little bit of an update on charter schools, diversity training, and flexibility bills that are pending. First, the details of that tax policy bill, Senate File 587. It reconfigures mental health funding to be funded by the state instead of property taxes with a long phase-in period there. It eliminates the backfill of the commercial industrial property taxes and makes changes to the school aid formula to hold the state harmless for that impact at 88%. Setting the foundation level of the school aid base at 88.4% beginning in the 22-23 school year. Our biggest concern about this bill, we've got two. First, it eliminates the public education and recreation levy. That's a voter-approved levy that 23 districts use to help fund community education, playgrounds, and swimming pools, and it's been approved by voters, so why take this 13.5-cent levy away? It also strikes the trigger requirements before the 2018 income tax changes take effect, and that has an impact on the state general fund budget. In fiscal 23, the fiscal note estimates a loss of $271 million in revenue, and in fiscal 24, $268 million worth of revenue. We are opposed to the bill because of the hit to the general fund and the elimination of the Pearl levy. Make sure you talk to your House members about rejecting at least those parts of the Senate proposal. House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, now also has preschool funding. But let's start with that one-time funding for helping districts manage the costs of instruction in COVID. It sets a $60 per pupil per qualified day amount, minus $1 for the AEAs that school districts will transfer to the AEAs. The per pupil qualified amount is based on enrollment served and does not include students in a 100% virtual option. Details of the formula are specified in your weekly report. Now, the amendment that happened in the Senate Appropriations Committee includes School Budget Review Committee, or SBRC, authority, which will be funded with federal funds for preschool enrollment growth this coming fall, in which you'll have likely a return of the normal number of 4-year-olds wanting preschool, and we saw a big drop in last fall due to the COVID pandemic. Funding will happen two different ways. If the preschool ending balance is less than 25% of the foundation revenue that you get at the district level, then it'll be a class action. A modified supplemental amount will be automatic by the SBRC. If your ending balance is greater than 25% of your revenue, then you can still apply to the SBRC, justify why you have the ending balance, and the SBRC at that point may grant the modified supplemental amount for preschool growth. It was approved by the Senate Appropriations Committee. It's on the calendar in the Senate. Let your senators know that we support the bill as amended. We're grateful for the preschool funding that will help us recover from the pandemic, and we can live with most of that per pupil qualified instructional supplement that all districts will receive. House File 228, Diversity Plans. This bill was amended in the Senate and approved on party lines, sending it back to the House. It prohibits districts with voluntary diversity plans from regulating open enrollment out. It eliminated, through an amendment, any deadline for open enrollment application for the 21-22 school year by notwithstanding the entire open enrollment chapter. Now, that's confusing because there are a lot of other regulations in that chapter that would normally apply to this open enrollment relationship. That'll have to be cleaned up in the House. If not in this bill, then in the Standings Appropriations bill. But more importantly, without any deadline at all, it puts those 5 districts of Davenport, Des Moines, Postville, Waterloo, and West Liberty in a real budget constraint and implications if students can leave at any time during the year. Now, the intention of the amendment was that a student in one of these districts missed the March 1st deadline over a month ago, and that they need to be able to apply to open enroll out according to the policy that they're including. It returns to the normal March 1st deadline for future years. We would prefer a more reasonable deadline than any time during the course of the school year. We are opposed to the bill. We're also concerned that for high school students, there could be credit implications if students didn't receive credit for partial work that happened if they transferred mid-semester. Ask your House members to fix that open enrollment deadline. Bills pending on the Senate calendar. House File 802 limits diversity training. The bill prohibits training and also impacts curriculum on divisive subjects, scapegoating, or systemic racism. The Senate had a more reasonable bill that they sent over to the House. The House rewrote it and made this a lot more extreme. It's on the Senate calendar. We know that there will be an amendment, as Senator Sinclair announced that in the Education Committee meeting. Ask your senators to rein this in, eliminate the application to curriculum, and make this a reasonable bill that we can live with. House File 813, charter schools. This bill needs amendment to make charters subject to public records, to require administrators to have licenses, require the founding group to be Iowans, and pay prorated funding back to the public school if a student withdraws or is expelled from the charter school. It is also on the Senate calendar, so talk to your senators about making this workable. House File 847, flexibility and open enrollment. This bill provides lots of different things, from an innovation waiver program to transfer of teacher leadership and compensation ending balance to the Flex account by board action. It directs payout of excess teacher salary supplement funds to teachers, many open enrollment provisions, some of which we're okay with, some we have concerns about, and also deals with operational sharing. You can tell your senators that we're grateful for the flexibility and to consider some of those impacts in open enrollment more carefully. Good news. Budget bills are the beginning of the end of the session. There was lots of work on the beginning budgets in many of the appropriations subcommittees this week. The Education Appropriations Subcommittee in the House talked about their bill on Thursday morning, and it expands funds for child mental health in two different ways, and it increases the appropriation for the Therapeutic Classroom Incentive Fund up to $1.6 million, and it also puts another $1 million to the AEAs for school-based children's mental health services, including mental health awareness training for educators, a total appropriation of $3.1 million. Make sure you tell your House members thank you for that and keep that in the bill. Coming up next week or soon, floor debate on all of these bills that needs to move will have to happen in the next few weeks to finish out this session. The budget bills will likely advance and get discussion bouncing back and forth between the House and Senate. Tax policy differences between the House and Senate will have to reach consensus, and April 30th is the last day of the 2021 session per diem payments to legislators. They hope to finish up before that time. Your Advocacy Action Task List. First of all, thank all of your legislators for passing the ELL tiered weighting bill. It was sent to the governor. Both senators and representatives deserve thanks for getting that policy in place, and we'll talk about funding and the weighting next year. In the Senate, Charter Schools House File 813 needs amending in the Senate. Encourage them to vote yes on House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, which now includes that preschool funding. We have concerns with House File 802, diversity training, make this bill reasonable, and concerns with House File 847 regarding open enrollment. In the House, Senate File 587 needs amendment to eliminate the impact on the Pearl levy and to soften the impact on the general fund revenues. We encourage them to support that mental health funding for students in the Education Appropriations Bill. UEN resources to help. Check out the UEN website. The call to action still gives you the talking points that are relevant on House File 813 charter schools. That's over in the Senate. Don't forget to keep us informed of contacts and relationships you and your team members are having with legislators. We're always happy to help you edit a response to a legislator, maybe even publish a letter to the editor if that would be helpful. Thank you to our UEN corporate sponsor, BoardWorks, for their support of UEN programs and services. You can find information about how they can help your district on the corporate sponsor page of the UEN website. And most of all, thank you for your advocacy efforts on behalf of the students in your school. We'll see you next week.